I've lived in Maplewood Estates for 12 years. 12 peaceful, tree-lined, perfectly manicured years. Until my front door became a federal offense. You read that right. My door. It all started last spring when the weather finally turned warm enough to swap my dreary beige door for something a little cheerier. My daughter, Emily, had just gifted me a can of sunflower yellow paint for Mother's Day. "Mom, it'll brighten up the whole street," she'd said. She wasn't wrong. That color practically radiated sunshine. I spent an entire Saturday sanding, priming, and painting, humming old Fleetwood Mac songs while the birds chirped. When I was done, I stepped back and admired my handiwork. Against the cream-colored siding, that door looked alive. I loved it instantly. So did my neighbors. Or, well, some of them. 3 days later, a crisp white envelope appeared in my mailbox. The return address read, Maplewood Estates Homeowners Association. Never a good sign. I opened it over my kitchen counter, still holding my morning coffee. Dear Mrs. Collins, it has come to our attention that your front door is painted in a color not compliant with community aesthetic guidelines. Please note that colors must be neutral and approved by the HOA Design Committee prior to any modification. Your door's color has been described by several residents as too bright, too attention-grabbing, and one even noted it appeared too friendly. Too friendly? I read aloud, nearly spilling my coffee. How could a door be too friendly? Was it smiling, waving, offering unsolicited lemonade to passers-by? My husband, Tom, laughed so hard he almost choked on his toast. Maybe they think people will start showing up expecting cookies. At first, I figured it was a mix-up. Surely no one cared that much about a paint color. But when I attended the next HOA meeting, I learned differently. The HOA board sat at a long folding table in the community clubhouse. 5 people, all serious, all wearing name tags. There was Helen, the president, retired librarian, self-proclaimed guardian of community uniformity. Then there was Chuck, the vice president, former engineer, ruler straight posture, ruler straight personality. The rest looked like extras in a suburban courtroom drama. When my turn came, I stood up and said, I just came to clarify why my front door color is considered a problem. Helen didn't even look up from her clipboard. Your door is not within the approved beige spectrum, Mrs. Collins. Beige spectrum? I repeated. You mean the 5 shades of boredom listed on the HOA chart? A few residents chuckled. Helen did not. Chuck leaned forward. It's not personal. We just have to maintain the neighborhood's aesthetic harmony. Chuck, I said sweetly, it's a door, not a marching band. Laughter rippled through the room. Helen's lips tightened. Then she read from her notes. One neighbor said it gives off a Disneyland vibe. Well, I said, God forbid happiness breaks out on Maplewood Drive. That's when I knew. This was war. I wasn't about to repaint my door just because a few people thought it was too cheerful. So I left it. Week 1, I got another letter. Week 2, a friendly reminder. Week 3, a notice threatening a $200 fine. Tom said, it's not worth it. Just paint it beige. But I couldn't. That yellow door had become more than paint. It was a statement. Soon something unexpected happened. One morning, my neighbor Susan stopped by. She whispered, I love your door. Makes me smile every time I walk by. Then George, from 2 houses down, said, you know, I might paint mine blue. Tired of living in a sea of oatmeal. Within a month, there were 4 colorful doors on our street. Then 6, then 10. The HOA meetings got tense. Helen's voice got higher. Chuck's emails got longer. Finally, they scheduled an emergency community standards review. Translation: Yellowgate had gone viral. The night of the big meeting, the clubhouse was packed. You'd think we were voting on a new president, not paint colors. Helen opened with her usual monotone. The HOA exists to preserve property values and uphold aesthetic consistency. Then she motioned to a slideshow of houses, everyone identical, beige, lifeless. I waited until public comment. Then I stood up, heart pounding. I just want to say, consistency is nice, but so is character. Look, I get it. You don't want neon green garages or purple lawns, but a little color doesn't destroy a neighborhood. It gives it personality. A murmur of agreement spread through the room. I pointed to the screen. You call this harmony? I call it hospital decor. People move here because they want community, not conformity. Even Chuck looked uncertain. Then something remarkable happened. Ellen, one of the oldest residents, she'd lived there since the 80s, stood up and said, "You know what? When I moved here, everyone had different colored doors. We lost that somewhere along the way." That did it. A vote was taken. The room held its breath. By a narrow margin, 37 to 34, the HOA agreed to revise the color policy. Residents could now choose from a broader palette, pending simple notification rather than pre-approval. The crowd applauded. Helen looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. That summer, Maplewood Estates blossomed, literally. Doors turned sage green, navy blue, coral pink. People started talking again about colors, about gardens, about life. One Saturday, I noticed Helen herself standing on her porch, brush in hand, painting her door a gentle robin's egg blue. When she saw me, she smiled sheepishly. "Turns out friendly isn't so bad after all," she said. I laughed. Welcome to the bright side. Sometimes it's the smallest acts that spark the biggest changes. I didn't mean to start a rebellion. I just wanted a door that made me happy. But maybe that's the point. For years, we'd been told that order and harmony meant sameness. But it turns out harmony doesn't come from everything looking identical. It comes from everything belonging together, differences and all. Now, every time I walk up to my yellow door, I feel a quiet pride. Not just because I won a silly battle with the HOA, but because that door reminds me that joy is worth standing up for. And every so often, when new families move in, I see them pause, look around at our colorful street, and smile. That's when I think, if this door's too friendly, well, maybe the world could use a little more of that.